name is Ashley Schramm, and this is Luca Schramm, and he is the younger brother of our son, Dominic. It was definitely a surprise for us. Up until about 28 weeks, we were under the impression that we were having a perfectly healthy boy, that he was growing the way he needed to be growing. It was at the 28-week visit that they couldn't get a clear image of his full heart. So they suggested that we go to a high-risk doctor, and we didn't think anything of it because they told us not to worry about it. Looking back now, we're pretty sure they knew that there was something special with Dominic's heart. So we went to high risk, and that's when we were told that there's something wrong with your baby's heart. Something that you never want to hear. At the time that it was told to me, it's one of those feelings where you hear the person talking, but you don't know what they're saying. Everything is just muffled, and it feels like you're underwater and you're just not even in the room. Honestly, if it wasn't for my husband being there, I don't even know if I would fully know what was wrong with our son's heart at that time. He kind of had to explain everything to me, and obviously lots of tears. At that point, they directed us to get a fetal echocardiogram to get a better in-depth look at his heart. And that's when we discovered that he will be born with hypoplastic right heart syndrome, pulmonary atresia, and a very large VSD. We were told then that the odds were against us, that he may not even make it out of utero. And if he did, he might not even survive a week, because we also found at that time that he, at 29 weeks, he was gestationally very small. We continued seeing high risk for 2 days a week until June 29th at 32 weeks. And June 29th is also my birthday. And Dominic decided to make his appearance then. He was born at 2 pounds, 2 ounces, and only 14 inches long. And he came into the world screaming, and it was one of the best cries I heard, because I knew he at least made it out of birth. From then, we just were expecting the worst because of what we were told previously. But Dominic proved pretty much all of us wrong. He fought hard and strong for 4 months, where he passed away on November 1st of 2017. But during those 4 months, he had 2 open heart surgeries. He was put on their tandem heart, and he kept persevering and just beating all odds at that time. It's one of those things where they say it's always amazing that your child is born on your birthday. Obviously, it's gonna be the best gift I ever receive. That day was obviously extremely scary, and I was going in just kind of expecting not for that to happen. But the visit prior to a high risk is when I actually told them that I wanted to continue to see them at least twice a week. When you have that mother's instinct and that gut feeling that they're telling you that you shouldn't do something, but you need to do it, follow your gut instinct, because they only wanted me to go once a week. If I didn't do that twice a week, I'm pretty sure we would have lost him that day without us knowing. Emotionally, it was a long time building up within the NICU. We had amazing support from all his nurses, family, friends that would keep checking in on us. My husband did his own research. Obviously, you don't want to go in too much depths in the internet, especially with WebMD there, because that just never ends, right? So we try to educate ourselves a lot on his condition, just so we were better prepared to ask questions to his surgeons and everything. Him coming onto the CVICU floor was actually the unexpected day that he did. He was not doing well that entire week in the NICU. We honestly weren't sure what we were preparing for, if we were actually preparing for his final moments. And that's when Dr. Shillingford came down. He said, we're gonna hook him up to the tandem heart. We're gonna try to get weight on him, get him prepared for his first surgery. So that's what we did, and he was on tandem heart, I think at the first time, 2 or 3 weeks. And that entire time we just kept cheering him on, like he needed to gain that weight, which he was doing, and getting those lungs cleared up. And he was doing amazing. And he went through his first open heart surgery. That day, we weren't entirely sure how he was going to be coming back. He came back on the tandem heart from surgery. We were under the impression that he was not going to, but being as small as he was, there was honestly a lot of arteries that were really tiny, so they had to kind of rethink of how they were going to do it. I think it was about a week and a half later, he went under again for his second open heart surgery, where that was the time that he came off of tandem heart and came back in the room. And we were actually, for the first time in a long while, we only saw him with his cannula. Mentally, it was a lot to deal with. I don't think anything can ever prepare you, even as many people that tell you, this is what your child's gonna look like when they come back. This is what's gonna happen when you see them for the first time on a machine that you've never seen before, and it's a lot to take in. I still think about a lot of that stuff. Sometimes it's even now harder to separate some of the good memories we had with him opposed to some of the worst memories. I think that's just kind of what's all involved with it as well. My biggest comfort, and I know it's going to sound cliche, was my husband. I don't know what I would have done if he wasn't there every day with me. And then his nurses were amazing. NICU nurses, CVICU nurses, they were all just amazing with everything. Always at least kind of easing our fears, but also telling us what can happen and what could happen once this happens. But they also made it fun. We celebrated our second wedding anniversary while Dominic was in the hospital, and they went and made us a little anniversary gift from Dominic with little hands, and just getting like those little special things that were from Dominic was comfort enough. The only holiday that he got to celebrate was Halloween. And so one of his nurses helped us make candy corn feet with him by painting his little feet, so we have his footprint. Just different little things like that. Being able to dress him up for Halloween. And Dominic already knew that I was going to dress him up in silly little hats. So we had little hats for him, and my husband and I, since he wasn't ever able to wear clothes, we at least decorated his crib that he had. So he had special blankets and toys, and we try to make it his own. Then we also, to help comfort him some, obviously we read to him, we kissed him, talked to him, and I was trying to lead him on the right path right away with making sure he listened to the Beatles and Queen, but as, lullaby form. So it wasn't too much for him at that time. I think he would have really enjoyed Sea Life. We put an episode of Little Einsteins on for him, and it just had whales on it, and his eyes were very expressive. You knew when he was thinking of something, and his eyes just grew wide, like, what is that? And it's little moments like that that I just love and I think about a lot. One of his nurses asked me if I was part of the Healing Hearts Project group on Facebook, and at the time I only followed them. I was like, this was when I guess groups were like super new to Facebook. I don't even remember. Or I was just not that aware of how to join groups on Facebook. But I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm following them. They're great. And then I met my friend Shannon, who is Ellie's mom, she was our neighbor in the hospital. We were in room 209. She was in 208, I believe. She started talking to me about like conversations that were happening, and I'm like, I didn't see any of that. Like, what are you talking about? And then she was the one that actually told me, she's like, no, this is, and she showed me, and she invited me to the group so I could get involved and everything like that. But I think actually the first little tidbit of the Healing Hearts that I can remember was actually when we were in the NICU. We were only in the NICU maybe 2 weeks at that time, and we came in and we just had a little bag with a bunch of little like things that can help you survive the hospital, like a notepad and hand sanitizer, chapstick, little things like that. And they're like, oh, this is from the Healing Hearts Project. All the heart babies get them. And at the time we were like, oh, okay. Well, that was very nice of them. And it was just one of those good feelings knowing that there's just like this anonymity that like someone that you haven't even met already has your back and already has your thoughts and needs, already thinking about what they can take care of for you. It sucks. There's no other words that can really say at the time that will probably comfort you, because it does. It just sucks when you hear those words. Once the initial shock wears off and you start kind of learning for yourself and everything like that, just know that even though you're coming into a really sucky situation, a situation you never thought was going to be your family dream, you never thought that your child was going to be born with something special and severe all at the same time, that you have people there supporting you. There's going to be that comfort. There's going to be that shoulder to cry on. There's going to be those times where you can just bounce ideas back off someone who might have gone through something similar. And they continue to try to go out of their way, even after our son's death. They still try to include us in the community because we're forever going to be intertwined within the heart community, even though Dominic isn't physically here. You know, every form of it varies from maybe just VSD to something what Dominic had, where he was basically missing half his heart. Every story is different. Every diagnosis is different. What I want people to realize is that how prevalent it actually is within the community. People that have kids that are starting school, I don't think they realize that at some point in their child's schooling, they will probably have at least one child within their class that's going to have some form of heart issues, and that they just need to know about that. They need to be conscious of those kind of kids within their classrooms. And then unfortunately, if you happen to go through what we go through as well, where you lose that child and then you continue on and you have another child, they will never replace the child you had. I've had a lot of hurtful, meaningful, or trying to be meaningful comfort things said to me. I've definitely had someone tell me how Luca was Dominic reincarnated. He is not. He is Luca. Dominic is Dominic. What they don't seem to understand is not only is it taking away from Luca's personality, it's taking away from who Dominic was. Dominic was a baby. He was alive. He was here. He had his own personality. It shined through even when people didn't think it was. We knew who he was, and we know that they were two different children. And we obviously had all the questions of, you have to be so nervous, and of course we are nervous. We are forever seeing high risk if I get pregnant again after Luca. Up until we did an anatomy of his heart, we were on pins and needles of, are we going to be thrown back into this again? And it's just something that's always going to stick at the back of your mind. And even now, you just think the smallest little incident with him will cause me now to go into full-on panic mode of, am I about to lose this child now? So it definitely affects you even after the fact. But the one important thing I want to say is that CHD didn't beat Dominic. Dominic beat CHD. Because I know now that his heart is whole and he's living in a better area. And I know someday we will see him. And we have little pieces that we always know that he is somehow communicating with us through. I know that he's definitely watched out for Luca, and there's incidences where I think Luca has seen him where obviously we don't. In the entire pregnancy with Luca, I know Dominic was looking after him. And he continues to.